We will go ahead and invite Brother Trevor to come forward and give us our evening's presentation. Please continue to receive your blessings.
Thank you, Sister Diane, and welcome, brethren. Welcome to our Friday evening study, and welcome to everyone who is with us on the Zoom system. Okay, our subject is 6 days shalt thou labor. We've started the Sabbath, and we will start our study with that welcome of the Sabbath. We are Sabbath keepers, and that means that Brother Hadif explains we work 6 days a week. Now, the world is, as a general rule, they are not Sabbath keepers, and they don't work 6 days a week either. They feel they should not have to work more than 5 days a week or less. And there are people who are advocating a 4-day week with reduced hours, not increased hours, in Europe and so on. So if the Lord has a way, a plan, the enemy is going to directly contradict that in every regard. Today we happen to be across the street from a marijuana store. I hadn't noted, I didn't know where it was in Monette, and it was something that we hadn't seen since it's relatively new here in Missouri. But if the Lord says that wine is a mocker and that it is important not to corrupt the body with these inebriating substances, what is Satan going to do? He's going to agitate to bring medical marijuana. And so they voted on it here in Missouri a few years ago for medical purposes. But what we saw today was a sign on the store that said, "No medical prescription needed." We passed that now. Just walk in and get some. And whatever the Lord has, the enemy will turn it upside down. And he is doing this with the work week, labor in general. Everything he can do, he's returning it, destroying it to his own ends. But this is what the Lord had decreed. Genesis 3:17. And unto Adam he said, Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree, which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of your life. When the Lord gives us a command, it is important to obey it. There will be severe consequences for any command that he gives us that we don't obey. And you say, well, some of his sayings are not commands, they're just suggestions. Okay? But that is our own idea. That is not what the Lord says. That's not found in the Bible. What the Lord tells us to do is a requirement. And another way of putting a requirement is a command. And when we do obey God's requirements, his commands, we are blessed. So it's only understandable that when we disobey, when we break his commands, his requests, his requirements, we are cursed. It's not only just one thing, you know. Maybe we thought that the requirements and the commands were ended at Eden, but everything he tells us is exactly the same in that the consequences are the same for disobedience. And you say, well, some commands are more important to others. Maybe so, but the punishment is the same for everything. Okay? From our point of view, that's what counts. Okay, continuing. Thou hast eaten of the tree which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. After Adam fell into sin, what did the Lord say to him? Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, hast done what you ought not, and hast eaten of the fruit which I forbade you to eat. For this cause cursed is the ground, not against you, but for your sake. God knew that we needed to have something to occupy us, to keep us out of trouble. He cursed the ground to make us work, to make us exert ourselves, to occupy ourselves. If we are not occupied with work, with labor, people tend to fall into bad occupations, of all sorts. There could be all the things that we imagine people to do when they have nothing to keep them out of trouble, and more. Work is a blessing. It is something that the Lord has given us, and it's not something that we can say, thank you for that blessing, Lord. Thank you for the command that I must labor and earn my bread, but I think I won't do that. Those people who do that are disobeying the Lord yet again, and they will reap the consequences. There's one standard punishment for everything, for all disobedience with the Lord: death, eternal loss. Continuing with Genesis 3:19, in the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. Satan would have said, and this is a prophetic thought here, in the pleasure shalt thou eat bread, until in the process of evolution thou become as God. For out of an insignificant Adam wert thou taken, and unto a mighty God shalt thou evolve, if thou continue on and on. Now, people are constantly on Twitter and other places, in certain areas, that people who care about these things, constantly talking about this subject, about creating God and becoming as God by connecting themselves to the AI. They want to be as God. They know they can be if nothing stops them, and they are moving in that direction. And you think, no, that's not possible. Remember, we live in the future. We live with expanded boundaries of sin, and it is possible. It is possible not to be as real God, but as little g gods, able to do all sorts of amazing, so-called miraculous technological feats. This is very possible, brethren. What you see on the movies with Iron Man and all those people jumping and thumping and running about doing their mischief, all of that kind of thing is possible, though it's pretty trivial and juvenile, but this is where we're going. They will greatly enhance their brains, their minds, and the bodies can be enhanced too, to a very high degree. And you will seem to be as a God. And they are working on it, brethren, and it will come quickly under certain conditions. Most likely, I don't know that, I don't actually believe that we will see these things for various reasons, but not for technical reasons. Technically, scientifically, these things are doable, and there are people like Sam Altman and Elon Musk and others who want to plug their heads into a a computer chip and connect to the computer. A couple of weeks ago, the big story on Twitter was the paraplegic who had the implant from Elon Musk's chip. And he was smiling and happy, so happy that now he's paralyzed below the neck. And now he can control the computer, type, whatever, and do things. And probably a lot more things he'll be able to do with that first generation chip as he learns. And he's happy because, of course, it is a good thing for him. He's paralyzed. He can't do anything with his hands, feet. But that's like medical marijuana. We want to do this for a good purpose, so the lame will walk and the blind will see. But they also want to do it so they can be as God. This is where they're going. And it's a very true thing if they are allowed to do this by the governments of the world and by us. If we dilly-dally on our work, it will happen. You will see these things. You may even want to get an implant yourself. The implant is not inherently evil, any more evil than a mouse or any other interface device that we have with our computer. It doesn't have to give you or make you think you have godlike powers, but that's a whole different subject there. What they want to do eventually is just this, what you see here, just what Brother Hadif said. And unto a mighty God thou shalt evolve, if thou continue on and on. If. It is not certain that they will continue on, but it's not because of science. We have eaten of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Our eyes are opened, and we are able to create all sorts of things. And they wish to be as God, just as the Lord had seen so far before, and as Brother Hadif has brought out in other places. What did God say, though? In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat thy bread all the days of thy life. That is, for your own sake you are now to have hardship in making a living. It is not satisfactory for a robot to do all your work, and you sit home, except the times when you have to travel to the marijuana dispensary, and you just stay home. It's not satisfactory. It's not Davidian. It's not possible to be a Davidian and not work, because God has created work and ordained work and commanded us to work. That is, for your own sake, you are now to have hardship in making a living, and you might just as well reconcile yourself to it. And although such was not man's lot before he sinned, it became his lot as soon as he was taken out of the garden, as soon as he earned the curse. Now remember, it was for our sake. It is for our benefit, to keep us out of trouble, to give us something to do. And that is why Satan would like to see you not have anything to do. He would like you not to be doing anything. He would like you to think you have worked hard all your life and you deserve to do nothing now. Okay? Not true, brethren. No Davidian stops working. If you can eat, Sister White said, you can work. And every Davidian has work to do. Now, the world doesn't see that. And to the extent that we have the ideas of the world in our minds, we won't see it either, or we won't feel it. We may acknowledge it, but we won't actually believe that this is what the Lord has commanded for us. But He has, and it is necessary for every single one of us to be working. And it is understood, even in the world, by wise scientists and statesmen, that work is beneficial. When people retire in the world, they tend to go downhill. If they stop doing things, if they don't volunteer, if they don't have interests absorbing hobby farms or this or that, their health tends to go downhill. They need things to keep them occupied. If you just stop doing things, you're going to stop. So another work week is over. And work is a blessing from God, and it is a religious requirement for all Davidians. We cannot be called commandment-keeping people unless we do all our work and do it on time, for one of the commandments is, 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. If we waste a moment of our time, except it be because of some inability, we would be unfit to call ourselves commandment keepers. That's very interesting. No time wasted, no time off. You need time off not to work today? If you have an inability due to sickness, that could be. That's fine, if when necessary. But because you feel lazy today and you want to take a day off, you are unfit to call yourself a commandment keeper, brethren. This is just the way the Lord has set it up. Now, from the point of view of the world, that's like pretty harsh, Brother Trevor. You mean I can't even take a day off? It's not my rule. It's not my suggestion that you work 6 days a week. And it's not God's suggestion either. It's His command. Hence, we must labor smilingly and faithfully 6 full days of the week. Neither can we let the work drag behind each day and yet claim to keep God's 10 commandments. And this is a very profound insight. If you are a slow, inefficient worker, but I love the Lord and I pray and I pay tithe, Brother Trevor, but you're still not a commandment keeper, and the Lord is going to judge you like that. We have a requirement not only to be workers 6 days a week, but to be efficient, capable workers 6 days a week. It's not a small thing we're saying, brethren. There are going to be people at the end there who are like, Lord, did I not work 6 days a week? But I worked half-heartedly and incompetently, and I wasn't diligent or faithful about things. You think the Lord doesn't see it? He does see it. Neither can we let the work drag behind each day and yet claim to keep God's 10 commandments. As the work which God has assigned to everyone is neither too much nor not enough, if we faithfully labor 6 days and do all our work, we would neither find idle time during the week, nor would we find something undone at the end of the week. Now, hopefully we have come to code 3.4, page 13. Now, hopefully we have come to the end of this week without having things that should have been done this week. There are jobs that must be done in the garden. The weeds are like this. You must get them. You must get them before they get high. You must spray. You must harvest. You must pick sometimes. You must do things in the garden at a certain time. And if you leave it undone, you can set back your harvest, you can set back the plants, and so on, tremendously, even to the point of losing everything under certain circumstances. This is an illustration of everything. We may have work that we needed to get done, but by not getting it done by the end of the week, we may have to do double next week. It is quite possible. It happens in many different ways. Or it may be that we have to do 10% or 25% extra work because it wasn't done at the right time. And this is unfaithfulness. It is not being a true commandment keeper. To keep the seventh day holy, we must work 6 days a week. It is now I'm finished with the quote. This is what I am saying myself. It is a religious, you can tell too, when we don't see when we see typos and so on. It is a religious requirement to work 6 days a week. Not 7, not 5, and not 4. And if you thought it was, okay, it isn't. Underwork is a sin, but so is overwork. You see, the enemy will try to get people in one direction or another. For some, he'll get them with underwork. But there are many people he will get with overwork, and that is a sin also. We are to work 6 days a week without injuring our health by overexertion. Satan has turned God's way upside down. Many people don't want to work at all or think they don't have to work 6 days a week. I'm retired. I'm 65. I don't have to work. Well, you don't. You really don't. Everybody has a choice. But for us as Davidians, it's our choice to be commandment keepers and to labor faithfully 6 days a week. Many people don't want to work at all or think they don't have to work 6 days a week, while some choose to overwork for financial reasons. Neither option is approved by God and thus by the Davidian Association. To say that I'm going to overwork, I'm going to work extra, and I'll be giving more money to the association, is to think that you can commit the sin and then pay for it with the Lord. And not at all, brethren. It has not, and it is of no consequence to the Lord. He requires obedience. God requires us to do all the things, including work, in a sensible, moderate way. While it is disobedience to God's command to earn our living While it is disobedience to God's command to not earn our living by the sweat of our brow, by work, it is just as disobedient for any Davidian to get caught in the rat race to such an extent they're spending 10 or 12 or more hours at work day in and day out in pursuit of more money. You can train the rats for their rat race, the little wheel there. You give them a pellet of food, a reward as they run around. What is it called? Huh? The wheel. Huh? Well, it's okay. But the scientists give them a little reward, and they start running and running, and gave them another reward, and they run and run. And they can be trained, especially depending on what the reward is, they can be trained to run themselves to exhaustion. And that is how people are. People are just like that. You're conditioned, trained by the dollar. You got that dollar now, but you get overtime, you get bigger wages, you run, and you run, and you run. And you think it's okay, but it's not. We're commanded to do other things as well as work. That's why it's not okay. We have other requirements. We must take time to eat health-giving food, for example. We must sleep at least 8 hours a day. It's not optional, though a lot of people think it is. And none of God's commands are optional, you know. All his health-giving commands are commands. And you say, well, it's just a health thing. I can cut the corners. But it's a disobedience to God's command. And the penalty remains the same. Yes, from our human point of view, some sins are very, very serious. But from the point of view of judgment and punishment, the punishment is the same, death. If the sin is not forgiven, not repented and forgiven of it, it's all death. We must take time to eat health-giving food, for example. We must sleep at least 8 hours a day. We must fulfill our duties to our family. And very importantly, we must have time for prayer, study, and meditation. Oh, well, I'm too busy for that. I'm sorry. I did pray. But I don't have time for anything now. But Sabbath, I will. That is not anything to explain to Brother Trevor or anyone else. Explain it to the Lord. And think about that. Does the Lord understand? He does understand. He understands obedience and he understands disobedience. Finally, we have a strong duty to sigh and cry to our brothers and sisters and to our neighbors and friends too. Anyone whose work time, including travel time to work, is in excess of 12 hours a day, day after day, is in violation of God's requirements for us in these other areas. You see, work is very important. Work is a very important thing. But that's not all God told us to do. We have to obey all his requirements. And even work, we have to do it right. Satan knows just what temptation to present to each one. And for some, he knows to get them on that rat race and work them to death. And they have no time for anything. I will pretty soon, brother. I'm going to retire and give my time to the Lord, blah, blah. You know, I've heard that for many years, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't work like that. If you can't do the right thing now when you're impressed with it, the truth, you don't do it later. You don't get a chance later. Finally, we have a strong duty to sigh and cry. Okay, everyone whose work time, including travel time, is in excess of 12 hours a day is in violation. Do you see that you don't have time? If you're working 12 hours or more, including travel time, you don't have time to do the other things you're supposed to. You'll end up not sleeping. You'll end up not eating healthful food. You'll end up not doing prayer, study, and meditation. Well, I don't have time for that, really. But Sabbath, you know. No. And getting up early in the morning and cutting your sleep down below the required amount of 8 hours is also a sin. But I give an offering to the Lord. I bring this wonderful offering to the Lord, a prayer in the morning. Isn't that great? Not if you are sinning to do it. You are stealing those hours from the purpose the Lord has ordained for them for your sleep. And you're saying, oh, isn't this wonderful? I stole this time to give it to you, Lord. That's not what he's asking for. No one can serve two masters at the same time. While your time is taken up in work or in commuting to work, you are not able to spend the time you need with your family, with the Lord, and in caring for your health and welfare. Either you will serve your worldly job well and let personal and religious duties slide, or you must reduce your commitment to the world. That's the decision, brethren. Now, for most people, it's like, yeah, pretty soon I'm going to do that, but right now I have to do it. Okay? Why do you have to do it? Because you have ambitions, you have desires. You haven't let go of those things. And you have to have the money. You have to have the job. Well, brethren, that's a mistake. And to think that the Lord is going to bless you while you're disobeying him is a great mistake. He won't. He can't. He can't approve of your disobedience, regardless of what you think, and neither can Bashan. Every Davidian needs to be the best and most faithful worker for his employer. It is possible to be. This is a basic principle of the message. You must be a faithful worker. You have a religious duty. I don't know how many people realize this, but this is what Mount Carmel taught. This is what Brother Hadaf taught. You do have a religious duty to be Joseph, to be Daniel, to be David, to be the very best, to be Jacob, to be the best worker. the most faithful worker. For your employer. But we must value our commitments to God more than our commitments to our employers. And that is something that is not at all so certain with many people. They will give lip service to God, but they will do their job first. It happens, brethren. You know it happens. You know very well, and it is not right. It is better to eat bread and water and to live in a rented shack than to disobey God and to have a fine job and a fine house and all those things. And this is not for our benefit. It's better to do the right thing, and if it costs you money, and if it costs the Lord tithe, that's all right. The Lord will do fine, and the work will do fine, and you will do fine too. Many people in the world, and even in Davidia, wrongly put their responsibilities to God second to their earthly job. In reality, it doesn't matter what we say, it's what we do. This is a great mistake. God cannot and will not bless you if you do this, no matter what offering or tithe or prayers you shower him with. Furthermore, you cannot be a Davidian when you place human choices above God's requirements. We are not condemning all overtime work in every circumstance, but we are saying that if you are spending more than 12 hours a day in working and commuting week after week and month after month, you are making a mistake. You are disobeying God because you are not fulfilling your other responsibilities that he has asked you to fulfill. And you are injuring your physical health and your spiritual health. It is behavior that God cannot accept from a Davidian. If God does not accept this, neither can Bashan. And it is a condition of being a Davidian in good standing, brethren. The standards are higher. The things that the Lord wants us to know, the things that he wants us to do, it's not going to, the standards are not going to be like lowered and everything opened up so anyone could get in. It's going to be, the way is going to be narrower and narrower as we get closer to the kingdom. So do everything in moderation. Work hard, but remember your obligations to yourself, your family, and your God. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit here about what can you do if you don't have regular paid employment. And before I start, I want to address the situation of older people who have retired from regular employment. You are still under obligation to the Lord in the same way everybody else is. What is your job? Well, one of your jobs is self-care. It is to take care of yourself physically and spiritually. That's a job. That's work. And you don't get a pass on that. You don't get to go on vacations and travel the world and have a good time with friends and family because you're retired. That's the world. You have a job to take care of your health, to take care of your spiritual standing with the Lord in prayer, study, and meditation. And we're talking about serious amounts of time here, brethren, not little play amounts. We're not going to become spiritual giants by dabbling with the Lord, putting our toes into the water a little bit. It doesn't work like that. Also, we have this job, of sighing and crying for the church. It's a very, very important work. And it should be preoccupying concern for everyone, including so-called retired brethren. Yes, we do have a lot of work there. You have works of good works for other people, charitable works. You have works of doing good deeds and not looking for recompense from any human source. When we do good, we're not doing good so we can hear, oh, you are such a wonderful person. You know, there's the philanthropists, which is name. Philanthropists is a word that means wealthy people who like to give money so they can be well regarded. Because if they were giving money secretly, they wouldn't be known to be philanthropists. But they like to be known as philanthropists, and they have their reward. But for us, we're not like them. We're not doing things so we can have our name put there that we did this. In fact, our reward with God is even greater if no one gives us the time of day for what we have done, if it's unknown and unrecognized. So, you have many, many things that you can do that you can help people with, and no one would ever know that the brother or the sister did these things. They don't need to know. Your Heavenly Father knows. You can volunteer formally, and it doesn't have to be with the association. It can be community service. It can be many different things. There's benefits to doing that too, you know. When you volunteer like that, you're going to meet people. You're going to have an opportunity to make friends, right? And you're going to have an opportunity to sigh and cry if you make the most of it. There's many things that you can be doing. You have a responsibility. If you can eat, you need to have a full day. And you know what? As you keep busy, you keep your body strong. You'll keep your mind strong. And you'll be able to be a benefit to yourself and society and to God much longer. Remember, not only will you be doing things that science knows to be good for the body and mind, you will be receiving God's blessing, which is even greater. Okay, now for people who are not working but would like to work and need to work, here are some things that you can do. And before I start that, I saw a few days ago an interesting statistic that halfway stuck in my mind. In India, they have 4% unemployment among uneducated people. And among educated people, university-educated people, it's like 25% unemployment rate. I went to university. No, I'm not going to do that. Don't try to tell me I have to do that kind of work. I will do nothing until I can get a job appropriate to my education. That is what is going on. I'm not going back to the farm. I'm not going to take a manual job. I have a master's. I'm not doing that. And there are people, not only in India, but all around the world in this situation. It's a very wrong thing to ever tell Brother Trevor that you have a university education and you have not been employed for 3 years. It will definitely stick in his mind. It is necessary for every real Davidian, not a talk Davidian, not a wannabe Davidian, but every real Davidian to work. What can you do if you don't have regular paid employment and you still have the command from God to work? Lots of things, brethren, lots of things. Don't forget, 4% unemployment among uneducated people in India. Number one, if you are unemployed, and this is just a few ideas, there's more, much more, but if you are unemployed, your job as far as the message goes is to look for work. That's your job. Get out there and be looking for work. It is your job. It is a good job to look for work. Nothing wrong with it. All work is good, you know. All wholesome, legal, moral work is good. And you should not feel bad about it. Be out there. Have a good thought, a good feeling about it. Get out there and do some work. if you are faithfully work looking for a job, if you are faithfully looking for work for at least 8 hours of the day, that is useful labor on your part. And I don't think I have this here, but looking for ways to create a business is also a very good thing, if it's a real productive, beneficial business. Number 2, look for things you can do in between job searches. Try informal work for free as an advertisement. This can work. It depends. It's informal. It depends on the individuals involved, but do things for free. It is not necessary that you have your hand out at the end of the job and insist that when it was agreed that you would not get a penny for your job, that you try to get that penny, okay? But it's a good thing. Show your diligence. Maybe if that person can't pay you, they can be a reference to you, or they can tell somebody else. Number 3, now people don't like to do this because they don't want to work for free. They want money. They want to be paid. That's the human nature. But there's a higher logic here, and this does work. People do get jobs like this. Number 3, volunteer to do cleanup or yard work at a church, starting with the Adventist church, but a church. A lot of times, especially in this country, they do appreciate volunteer help. Doing the church cleanup and so on. Do things. Get out there and do things. And do it without expectation of reimbursement. If you didn't make a deal with them for money, don't even act around at the end of the day like you're waiting to be paid. Okay? But they will notice, and the Lord will notice, and you will be blessed in the end. Number 4, there are things you can do to satisfy the Lord's work requirements if you look. There are other things. Start cleaning up your house, your neighborhood, or town. Yes, we have a responsibility to clean up things. It doesn't have to take forever. If you can't get your house cleaned up in a set amount of time, there's something wrong with your house and especially with you. It can be done, and you have a responsibility to do that. And you can't expect God's blessing when you haven't cleaned up your house. And your neighborhood. If you don't have anything to do and there's trash in the neighborhood, pick it up. What's the harm of it? You're not getting paid. Yeah, that's the harm. But it's a good thing, brethren. It's something that you should do. Do it. If after you clean up your house, clean up your neighbor's yard or the neighbor beyond that. Free. You can't go and push yourself on that people and then expect money. A Davidian does not beg for money. It is improper to accept money as a Davidian if you don't need the money. If you are about to starve to death, yes, you can accept the money. But if you're not starving, go about your life, looking for work, continuing. You do not have a right to ask or even accept money from other people for nothing, for not working. And those people who are doing this are wrong. And by the way, you brethren, you Davidians, quote, Davidians, who do pay people, who give able-bodied people money for not working, are sinning. You are breaking the requirements of the Lord in this matter. We do not do that. We give food, we give help to the hungry, but we don't give money to those who are able-bodied to work and who are not hungry. It's not done. Find a place to plant things like tomatoes, sweet potatoes, and so on. When I'm in the city in Africa and so on, it's always interesting to me to watch the nooks and corners, the crannies, and I see a lot of people actually doing this in front of their wall in front of their house. They might be 5 foot or 10 foot, and a lot of times, not all the times, but a lot of times, they will plant some corn and so on there. But there'll be places where no one's living, and you have a space, and you could plant something there. Throw your bread upon the water. It's just something you can do that is beneficial. Plant small bananas and cassava, etc., at the right time. You are planting to fulfill your work requirements and to increase the sum total of food in the world for everyone. If you don't reap, someone else will reap. I watch the cassava plants and so on in the different countries that are just growing around in little nooks and crannies, like I said, and also the bananas. Someone comes and harvests them, okay? Even ones that are way out of the way, someone comes and harvests. Another thing, by the way, that is a good deed for isolated banana clumps is to cut down all the ones that are born already and leave one strong plant to bear. Okay? It doesn't take you but a moment to cut down a banana tree, and you will get, you or someone, and I'm talking about isolated places that are not claimed by any particular person, you are improving the world a little bit. Now, obviously, this is not something you do if you have a regular job. But it is something that is productive, and it's something that is beneficial. And there are many other things like this that you can do. Cast your bread upon the water. Do good, and don't look back. Go on and do more good. There's one person who counts who is watching and who will see and bless you. Keep your house immaculately clean within and without, especially the floors, furniture, and dark corners. And do not forget the even more essential health are fresh water, sunshine, pure fresh air, and outdoor exercise. A home garden provides all these, and besides supplying the table with fresh, life-giving food, it saves cash too. Yes, a home garden work can even keep the children out of mischief, and at the same time help them to develop strong physiques, noble characters, and usefulness, to learn to be industrious. You can be doing this too, brethren. You retired brethren, you older folk here who are able to work in a brisk way, you could be in the greenhouse. You don't have to bend. You don't have to stoop. You could do things. You should be gardening. It is a benefit to you personally to be out in the fresh air, and it's a benefit to you spiritually to be fulfilling your religious work requirements to the Lord, not to us. You could be gardening for yourself or to give to other people, to give to the kitchen and so on. But the point is, you want to be doing things. You have to be active. And you have to do the work that the Lord has told us to do. And for everyone else, remember that one of the things that we are to do is to have a garden. No Davidian is exempt who has an opportunity to garden. If you live in a skyscraper and there's no opportunity to garden, the Lord understands why you can't garden. He may not understand why you're living in that skyscraper, by the way, but everyone else has an opportunity in one way or another. If you have an opportunity, you should do it. It is not optional, brethren. The faithfulness of a person in little things indicates his faithfulness in greater things also. Faithfulness always brings promotion. Now, these are things that we should understand as a Davidian spiritually, but they are practical, keep your job and advance like Joseph instructions as well. You want to do good? I'm always surprised when I see people who, especially younger people, who just kind of do whatever they want and where they can be seen by superiors. I mean, it is not very smart. And to be seen and truly seen as a faithful person will bring you notice, and it will bring you promotion. It is the way to get ahead. So in order to be as David, one must be as faithful, as dependable, and as zealous for God's kingdom as was David of old. To be a Davidian, Brother Houteff is saying, you must be faithful, dependable, and zealous for God's cause. And if you say, well, I know the message, I studied the message, I read the message, I pray, isn't that enough? Remember, it's not enough, and it won't suffice. This is what will suffice along with that. To be faithful, dependable, and as zealous for God's kingdom as was David. Not talk, brethren, but action, doing things. I will close with this thought here on developing a noble character. Exact and diligent. Remember that in whatever position you may serve, you are revealing motive, developing character. Whatever your work, do it with exactness, with diligence. Overcome the inclinations to seek an easy task. Overcome the inclination to do a halfway job, what is called slipshod work. Do careful, precise, exact, diligent work. You will, your Father who is in heaven will see you and reward you, but you will also get noticed here and now. You will be blessed. You will get ahead, and you will have employment in the end in one way or another. Remember that no job, no honest, moral job is bad. We don't look down on work, we look up to work. Work was given us by God as a blessing, and we are happy for work. We appreciate work, and all of us can work with our hands. We can all grab a shovel or a pick or whatever. We can go out there and do things, and it is a huge mistake to think that we are college educated and therefore we don't have to do work. Brethren, you have an obligation even greater to do work if you have benefited from society's assistance to have a college degree than those who don't. And you should be working in one way or another. Every single real Davidian, this applies to. And if you say it doesn't apply to you, so be it. But for a Davidian, this is what we believe. This is our religion. And it is an excellent religion. It is the very best religion in many different ways. It has the highest principles. It will help us succeed in whatever we're doing. It is a wonderful blessing we all have to have these things, and I commend it to you, brethren, to hold on to if you believe it also. Thank you. God bless you.